So, what we're doing here, just to let everybody know, we're doing test number 1 of a new live show that we're going to be broadcasting all around the world and throughout any alternate universe that may be interested, although I doubt there are any. In fact, we'll get back to that in a little while. The name of this show, for everybody who's interested, is coming to you from the Talk5.live network. You can go to Talk5.live to find out a little bit more about that. Name of this show is TMI, the Mental Institute. We're going to talk about all those things you're afraid to talk about. Basically, we are too, but that doesn't stop us. We'll be back in just a second.
Welcome to the Mental Institute.
All right, we're back. My name's Rich Wildman. I'm going to be one of the guys on the show every week, all the way from Illinois. I used to be in central Illinois, lived in a cornfield, now not. Just thought I'd throw that out there for shits and giggles. My partner in crime is none other than Mr. Ian Husbands. Right over there he is. Hey, Ian, how are you, my buddy?
I'm good. I'm here, and it's nice to be back.
Well, it's been a long time. The fact of the matter is I moved. Like, that's a surprise. And
Something you like to do.
Yeah, well, kind of, sort of. I hate moving, but I like getting into a new place. That's kind of fun. And that being said, we're here in a new venue, a new show. That we're, like I said at the start, we're broadcasting this live through YouTube for the first time. We normally don't use it.
I don't think we are.
We should be.
I don't think we are.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is. It just may not be a public URL there yet. You may have to go into our account and look for it or something. I'm not sure.
Already there. And unfortunately, it doesn't seem going about. Maybe this is it now.
Yeah, you'll figure it out. Anyway, on today's broadcast, first of all, let me explain a little bit about what the show is.
Processing an archive is what it's doing.
Yeah, I don't get that. But we are live on Vaughn TV and those other places that we love so much.
I want to tell people where we are, Richard.
Where are we?
I don't know. Where are we? I want to tell people where we are. I want to show people to come and see us and to listen to this rubbish that we're about to spew.
Well, over on, you can find the website, Talk5.5 or Talk5.live is where you want to go. Direct your browser to that. You can also find us again on Vaughn Live and VaughnLive.tv/ I believe it's still MSI at the moment. So you might check that out as well. As soon as we get the kinks ironed out on this, we are going to be putting things over onto the website. We'll have a live video window on there you can watch at our website, Talk5.live, Talk, the number 5. Is that right? .live.
That's correct. Talk5.live.
Yeah, it takes me a while. I'm, a little slow that way. Anyway, on today's show and on this show in general, TMI, the Mental Institute, what we do is we talk about strange and unusual things. You ever want to know a little bit about aliens? Sure, we'll talk about that at some point. Men in Black, I imagine we'll talk about that on the same show as aliens. You just never know what we're going to get into. UFOs and all that kind of stuff, probably there as well. We'll talk about other things as well, strange things like what we're going to talk about a little bit today. I've noticed a lot of posts on YouTube about the Mandela effect. We want to talk about that a little bit. There's some interesting goings on in the world today that may make you feel that you've crossed over to an alternate universe. If you were around 25, 30 years ago, and you look at the world today, you're like, holy cow, it's different. It's crazy. And things are getting nuts and more nuts by the day. And if you were born in the last 15 years, you probably think, well, this is normal. No, it probably isn't normal. We're just all freaking nuts. And what do you think about the Mandela effect in basically its context with our world today? Am I nuts or is the world nuts?
Well, let's classify what the Mandela effect is. It's named after Nelson. A lot of people believing that Nelson Mandela died in 1980, but he didn't. When did he die, Rich?
I couldn't tell you. The fact of the matter is, it was a while ago. I mean, I don't know the exact date. I would assume that it was probably around, President Obama went to his funeral. I remember him playing selfie. So I would say within the last 8 years.
It was 2013, December the 5th, 2013. But a lot of people remember Nelson Mandela dying in 1980.
Isn't that like the day he got out of the prison he was in? Or some close to that?
I don't know. What the exact details of that is. But it's an interesting effect where basically it's like almost you wake up one day and think you're living in a different reality. Things that you knew for certain or thought you knew for certain aren't the same way anymore.
Now, I know a lot of people who've woken up with hangovers knowing for a fact that they've woken up in an alternate reality.
I think it's one of those things. I mean, with this, for example, I remember a childhood program called Rocket Robin Hood. And it was about Robin Hood, but they all had rocket backpacks on.
Okay.
So they were archers that used to fly around on these rocket backpacks and do adventurous things, save people and stuff like that. I can remember the theme tune, I can remember the basic premise of the program, and I can remember as a child quite enjoying it. I talked to my friends about this program. You know, you have the conversations with your friends. Do you remember, Cities of Gold or Ulysses or all the other programs that we used to watch? And Rocket Robin Hood comes up, and no one else ever remembers it.
So you're the only one who remembers this particular program out of all your childhood friends, which I assume are all basically your age, maybe a little bit older in some cases, not too much younger, I wouldn't think, but old enough to remember this program.
Yeah, and I at that point in time, I mean, this is going back some years, I Googled it and checked out on YouTube, and I couldn't find it. I'm sure if I checked on there now, I could probably find it. Things, a lot more has been uploaded since I checked last. But yeah, it was one of those things that seemed untraceable, and it was only I that had the recollection of it.
This is called Rocket Robin Hood. If you're in the audience and you remember Rocket Robin Hood, please post in the comments. Let us know that you remember, so Ian knows he's not alone in this world. Because I actually have a very similar story to that.
Go on.
It was about an item I saw actually on YouTube about the Large Hadron Collider. The Large Hadron Collider, according to this article, was built not only to discover the secrets of the universe, as it's purported to try and do, but also to open up a portal between alternate universes. And in this story, or as the video tried to relay the story, there's a group of core scientists called the Family, in air quotes. And they're led by a single scientist called Father. Okay. Sounds like a Hollywood movie, right? And
or a cult.
Yeah, well, or a cult, but more like a Hollywood movie to me, because as the thing goes on, they conduct an experiment where they do apparently open up something. And that's kind of where the story ended. But I remember at some point within the last 5 years or so watching a movie with that very same premise. However, I can find no evidence anywhere that I've looked on the net, on IDMB, Google, YouTube, any place I've looked, I have found no evidence other than that one story about this thing. And it was exactly what I remembered. So did I see that report at sometime in the last 5 years and just forget about it? Did I actually see a movie of that type and which I'm referencing, or did I read a book? What's the deal there? Is it the Mandela effect?
I think, quite honestly, we live in a world of fast-paced data.
True.
And you might have read something on that, and you might have seen a video. But for all you know, within the however many years it's been, that information might have been taken down and replaced with new information because they found it to be incorrect.
But you would think if it were a movie, if it were a movie, there would be some remnants of it up someplace.
I mean, it's interesting. I mean, the Mandela effect. So people are remembering a different reality than the one they're living in. Now, how? Why? I mean, you've got a few explanations which you could look at scientifically from this point of view. You could look at the multiverse, where, the belief is that we have parallel universes, and every decision that we make, be it yes or no, do or don't, can almost create another reality.
Right.
So if I decide to do this broadcast tonight, I'm broadcasting in this reality tonight. But in another reality, I decided not to pick up Skype, and I'm now sat on my sofa
and you're
getting drunk or something.
And you're drinking Jack Daniels and perhaps 7-Up in that reality.
Well, I'm doing that in this reality as well, Rich. Very well done. But yeah, I mean, so that's one of the beliefs. How about time travel as well? Time travel is another interesting thing where if someone actually went back and altered the timeline, but your memories didn't fully update, so you're seeing things a little differently than you remembered.
Yeah, there have been incidents in fiction where that has happened, where become memories of the prior timeline. In fact, that's one of the things that appears in as a plot in Star Trek and a number of episodes, as well as other shows. So it's kind of interesting.
That's been used. I mean, I've been doing a lot of Netflix and chilling recently, and we've been catching up on a lot of the sci-fi stuff. Battlestar Galactica, absolutely fantastic. 4 seasons of greatness. Stargate Universe, again, brilliant piece of work. 2 seasons of that. We've been watching The Flash, and The Flash actually deals a lot with time travel and parallel universes, and they have a collider, which they use for him to run around at such great speed that he can then open up wormholes.
Wouldn't that just be a hallway unless something runs into him as well?
Well, it would have to be a very long hallway. This is just basically it was designed as a collider. It's kind of like they now use it as a big racetrack for the Flash.
I was going to say it's kind of like a track and field racetrack. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just a big circle he's running in.
But it's big enough for him to get up enough speed to open up wormholes through to different times, and also now with the spoiler alert, with Vibe coming in on season 2, being Cisco Ramon, he can now open up doors to parallel universes, Earth 1, Earth 2, and Earth 3, as we've seen so far. So it's very popular in fiction.
And
there is basis in science in some of this.
I agree, and we're witnessing it as you're watching the show live and or recorded. You can see that there is some time travel function going on here, a little funkability in time travel, because Ian's words come way before his movements do. So I just want to thank Skype and the guys and gals over at Telestream for that. Thank you.
My mind is faster than my body.
Apparently it is. I don't know why that is, but anyway, we've been trying to figure that out as well. Hopefully our technology will get better as we progress throughout this thing. And maybe I'll put up some decorations behind me. Probably not. Anyway, all right, let's talk about the Mandela effect. I actually went to work some years ago, not knowing it was called the Mandela effect at that point. However, I quizzed a coworker of mine on people, alive or dead. What did he think? Of course, most of them we looked up on Google right after we made our guess, alive or dead. And we threw a lot of names out there, mostly celebrities that most people would know. If you've been alive long enough, you would probably know Buddy Hackett, dead, kind of thing. But we threw out some names in there that were a little bit more iffy, like Jerry Lewis, alive or dead? Well, he said dead. I said alive. And we looked it up on the internet. Of course, Jerry Lewis is alive. He's still alive at the time of this taping as well, at least according to my memory. And we went through this long list, and about 30% of the time, he guessed people who were dead, which were actually alive. So he said they were dead, they were actually alive. Which, again, I can't put off to the Mandela effect. It could just be, being out of touch or something like that. But I think a person who kind of pays attention to what's going on around the world would know these things.
Now, for those of you who don't know, my better half, Tony, is actually very close to completing a degree in psychology. And I've learned a lot off the back of that as well. And I have to say, Rich, that your sample, amount of sample people is a bit slim, just 2 of you.
Well, I got to be honest here.
You need a bigger sort of cross-section of people to interview and ask the same question and get the answers. 2 of you, I mean, it could just be, it's a 50-50 answer, for God's sake. I mean,
honestly, he's my only friend. So, yeah, I had to choose him. Otherwise, he'd have took his ball and go home, too.
What can I say? I just think you need a larger sample area.
All right, let me ask you the question then. Maybe this will enlarge our sample area by 100%.
Okay, go on.
All right, you be in charge of looking him up on Google after you answer the question then.
Right.
All right, Dean Martin, alive or dead?
Dead very recently.
Okay, look it up. And I'm going to say it's not that recently. It's been at least 7 years since he died.
95, not that far away.
It's 12 years.
Yeah.
So
that's in the history of the world, which has been around, some 4.2 billion years.
Is that what you're going to use as your gauge? Is what's very long, what's not very long, recent. And what's long? Okay.
Now, if we're talking science here, let's get it proper, right?
All right. Here's the next name. And Jerry Lee Lewis.
Alive. You just told me that one.
Jerry Lewis is alive, but Jerry Lee Lewis is a rockabilly country singer kind of guy. Is he alive or dead? You probably don't know Jerry Lee Lewis, though.
Is that the one that married his 11-year-old cousin?
13-year-old, yeah, and he's the piano player.
He's got to be dead, isn't he?
He's actually alive, I believe. Go ahead and look that up. This is a fascinating. It's just a thought game, if nothing else. If it has nothing to do with the Mandela effect.
Yeah, it seems like he's still kicking.
Okay, all right. Let's go for more recent people. What we would think. All right. So now, obviously, here's one we both know: Keith Moon.
Very much alive, although I do reckon
Keith Moon is dead.
He actually died a long time ago.
Keith Moon is actually dead.
He's still very much kicking, though.
No. No. You would hear the drum set if he were.
I'm thinking Keith Richards anyway. That's what I'm
Keith Richards is he's going to live forever.
He's very much dead. He's just very good illusion of being alive.
Nobody's told him yet.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, remote control or something like that.
All right, Keith Moon, we both agree is dead.
Keith Moon dead, yeah.
Yeah,
yes.
Okay. Now, if you were to look up when he died, when would you say it was?
I mean, do you know what? My mind does not retain dates.
Yeah, mine doesn't either. But are you going to say within the last 20 years or 25?
I'd say it was probably about 78 he died.
I'm going to say it's later than 78, but not much.
September the 7th, 78. There you go.
So I actually had that one right because, half of 78,
I was 2.
I was the latter half of 78.
I was 2.
See, that's the problem. All right. Now, people who would be alive in your, within the last, let's see, let's throw one more out there. I can't pick people who I know are alive because they are popular within your lifetime, but, I'll do my best to pick people you might know. Okay, Tony Bennett, alive or dead?
He's very much alive and he comes down my jam night. Apparently, he's not the famous Tony Bennett, but he's called Tony Bennett and he does sing.
I was going to say the famous Tony Bennett then.
Okay, I'd say he was dead.
He is alive.
Okay, there you go.
And you can look that up to verify that, but he did sing with Lady Gaga, so he's still kicking. He was just doing a series of commercials on TV with Lady Gaga as well.
Really? See, we don't get them over here, and if we do, I don't watch commercials anyway. Yeah, you seem to be right. Tony Bennett is alive.
Thank you very much. All right, let's see, I don't know these guys' names. I know them, but I don't know them. The keyboardist with Pink Floyd. You remember his name off the top of your head?
Not Charlie Watts. No, I don't.
Is he alive or dead though? Because you'll be able to Google keyboardist Pink Floyd, but no.
Again, you see, I have no idea, Rich. I just do not take.
I'm going to say
much notice.
I'm going to say he's dead.
Right. Okay. Richard Wright.
Yes, Mr. Wright.
He died in 2008.
All right, now here's the big one that a lot of people on the internet seem to believe in two different ways. I'm pretty sure Ian and I are going to both see it the same way because we obviously, we in full disclosure, looked it up before the show. Muhammad Ali.
Dead.
Muhammad Ali is indeed dead. A lot of people, however, see this a little differently. They believe he's dead. However, there's a dispute on when he died. Now, there are some people who believe Muhammad Ali died a long time ago, back in 1991. In fact, some even believe he died prior to then. Now, we all know, if we're watching this show, we may not, but I like to think we do. We know that Muhammad Ali died not that long ago.
Yeah, it was a couple of months ago, wasn't it?
It was more than that.
I can't remember. Again, I pay no attention to dates. I really don't. He died in June the 3rd. Less than a couple of months ago.
This June the 3rd. Okay.
Yeah, 2016.
So that would have been a little over a month ago then.
Yeah.
Okay. See, I thought he died prior to that. I thought it was last year.
You see, I think we live in an information age. I mean, quite a lot of the time, I spend a lot of time on Twitter at 8-month Malfunk, if you want to look me up. And quite often you will get someone's name pop up, R.I.P., I don't know, Keith Harris. And, you think, oh, Keith Harris has died. And then you realise he actually died a couple of years ago.
But how do you reconcile that with those people who believe he died in 1981?
Then, this is what I was going to say, then you look on BBC News. And, for example, Keith Harris dies will be one of the top trending news articles. And I think that's what happens. I think maybe you find an anniversary of someone who's died and someone looks it up and tweets it out or whatever, and more as a sort of memory of the person rather than announcing their death and sort of saying, look, it's the anniversary today. And then that becomes one of the top trending news topics. Now, a lot of people don't read the articles. They'll just scan the headlines. So if you've got a top trending news topic of Keith Harris dies, then that starts trending on social networks because people don't actually think to read the article. They just from today rather than 3 years ago.
No, well, I can understand where you're coming from there. I'm not going to argue the point. So the Mandela effect then, Ian, what are your overall thoughts on it? Is it something that people might be experiencing? Have you believed you've experienced something like that at one point or not?
Well, as I said, the whole Rocket Robin Hood thing for me, I mean, I think there is a lot to look into. I don't think we know enough because there are odd things happen. Serious cases of deja vu, which I've had. And as a child, not just as an adult, but serious case of deja vu. And I've been here before, I've done this before, and, my parents would swear that I hadn't been there or whatever. And I knew about it. And, I think possible time travel, possible multiverse and parallel universes. I think, science says that these could possibly exist. And until we get to a point where we could eliminate some of that, who knows? Who knows if we're not blipping in and out of one reality or another occasionally by accident?
That could explain the high gas prices a number of years ago.
It could do. Or that, someone has traveled back in time and killed that one butterfly, which has actually had a massive effect on, where we are now.
That's a whole different topic. The butterfly effect. Do you think, how would you think that ties into something like the Mandela effect?
Well, the whole idea of the butterfly effect is if you're going to travel back in time, you cannot alter what has happened because the slightest ripple in that could have a massive effect on the future. So if someone had the ability to travel back in time and killed a butterfly, that butterfly could be the one that went on to spawn 60 other different species of butterfly, for example. So when you get back to the future that you came from,
you find out all the dolphins have left.
Well, you find that, for example, 60 species of butterfly never existed. And that may have had a major effect on, another animal's food chain. Art and things like that might never have been inspired by them certain butterflies. So, things would change, even if subtly. To maybe major consequences. So, if time travel is possible and someone does go back and kill a butterfly, you could come back to a world where you thought, what, I swear a red admiral butterfly existed. But you flick through every book, you search through every internet channel, and there is no red admiral butterfly.
All right. Makes sense. Makes sense. Does any of this make sense to anybody else besides Ian and I? Of course, I'm just making shit up, and he's actually done some research, so that's good. So if it does or if it doesn't, let us know, obviously, in the comments. If you're interested in what we do, subscribe. We'll be back on sometime at a different day with another show, obviously. Now, I want to go ahead.
Hopefully.
Hopefully, yeah.
Yeah.
We still got delay stuff to figure out, but we'll get that figured out as well. Can you check on YouTube, see if we're actually recording over there now?
Let's have a look.
Because we should be. I'm sending stream right through Restream, and it's set up to go to YouTube. He's going to tell me no.
Oh, I'm not seeing anything, Richard. I'll be honest with you, mate.
Well, we'll check it out after.
I'm not seeing a live stream or anything.
All right, we'll check it out after we stop recording because it should be there. All right, we're going to go to a little segment that I didn't put the segment up for the first one, but I'm hoping I'm going to.
What segment are we going to, Rich? You haven't even told me this one.
We just went through the Therosaurus kind of thing. We're going to go back then when is where we're going to go, Ian.
Okay.
Now, on Back Then When, everybody, what we do is we bring up a topic from way back when, and we're going to talk about it a little bit and our memories of it compared to what it actually was, I guess, and then we'll find out what your thoughts are on it as well through the comment system. Or if you're watching it live, you can perhaps do something in the chat system as soon as we can figure out how to get the chat loaded. I bet if you go to the actual the live tab on our account and look somewhere in there, you can probably find the live feed as well as the chat.
I can't see a live tab on our thing.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, let's talk about something from back then when.
You're making up as you go along.
Pardon?
You're making up as you go along.
I am. Back then when, I want to talk about the manual typewriter. Everybody in today's world knows how to type. Hell, even little kids of 2 and 3 years old are able to type to somewhat. They can certainly use a mouse, probably peck on a keyboard as well and figure their way through things. But how many of you out there remember the manual keyboard? What about you, Ian? Do you remember the manual keyboard, the manual typewriter?
Oh yeah, my mum was a secretary, and she had one for typing up a lot of my dad's stuff and bits and pieces. So yeah. And
do you remember what was it? One of those electric typewriters, or was it the manual one that?
No, I think it was a proper old-fashioned manual one. I think it was a Singer or something like that.
Okay. So, and in your high school, did you actually have typing classes, or was it all keyboarding?
Do you know what? I remember very distinctly having a typing lesson. And basically, it was at a time where we were looking to take on our options. So, you learn a general everything up until third year of your senior school. And then after that, you have to choose certain subjects that you want to go on and take your GCSEs in. So, you get like a couple of open days at school to try out all the other bits and pieces you haven't sort of really done much of. And one of those was typing. And I remember sitting down in my typing class, and I picked up the worksheet and I read through it, and I started working through it, and I started working through doing all these questions and all these bits and pieces, and got to the end and I looked around and everyone had finished. And I was the last person. And as I got to the last question said, do only points 1, 2, and 3. I'd done about 10 points. One of the biggest lessons I learned that day was to read the worksheet before storming into the work.
That makes sense. I remember in high school, this is for everybody's information, back in the early to mid 80s.
I thought it was the 40s.
Well, that's Tommy. That's
sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. We're easily confused. The beard. It's hard to tell us apart. We're both so big. You can see that, everybody. I'm huge. Anyway, my junior year of high school, we took typing lessons, and the interesting thing is, I went to high school in a very, very small, a very small school. To give you an idea how small it was, my graduating class had 27 students. Okay. And we had a combination of electric and manual typewriters in that class because we couldn't afford everybody to have an electric typewriter. Okay. And I remember learning to type there. I took 1 year of typing. And then one of the first few job interviews I went to, they actually had a typing exam. You had to go through a typing test or whatever to figure out how many words a minute you could type. And back then I was very young. I typed maybe 30 words a minute. And as I moved over to the keyboard, got involved in computers and things like that, I got to a point where I was typing 80 to 90 words a minute. However, as I've gotten older, not nearly as fast now.
I've got 2 fingers for typing, those 2.
I was going to say to you, can you get them out of the box and show us?
That's all you need, man.
Back then we didn't worry about typewriters getting dirty. If you have multiple people using them today, everybody wants to take the alcohol wipes to their keyboards and all that garbage. Keep everything clean, otherwise you'll get sick. Back then, we didn't care.
That's because we live in a paranoid society, Richard.
You're darn tootin'. We'll have to talk about that sometime, too. How paranoid society has gotten. Why don't you let your kids go outside anymore? I couldn't come back in until it was dark.
I don't let one outside because we haven't got a garden.
We didn't have a garden either. You go out and play in the streets. What's wrong with that?
Yeah, not round here.
You just kind of pay attention when you hear something that's not a person. Get out the road. It's pretty easy.
No, this is different. It's a different ball game these days. But we're talking about typewriters.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah, I mean, I thought a typewriter was a lot more satisfying than a computer keyboard.
The clack, 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 kind of like the old manual.
Ting.
But what about the tat, 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 and kink? You get it all stuck up there. Get all the keys stuck up there.
I mean, I remember playing with. I mean, I was a kid. Let's face it. I mean, I started using computers when I was about 8 or 9 years old. My dad got heavily into the Commodore stuff, the VIC-20 and the 64 and stuff like that. You have to
get the white out and correct your mistakes and.
Well, but you have to do it in your writing. So and I think
how many people write these days? I mean, write with an ink pen or a pencil, for crying out loud. Even in school, they're not teaching writing anymore. They're teaching keyboarding.
Well, they teach writing to the younger children, but yeah, a lot of it
here in the States, they've kind of done away with that.
Yeah, whiteboards and tablets and stuff like that is very moving forward.
Here in the States, they've kind of done away with that. I wonder how these kids are going to sign their names X. Seriously.
That'll be all right if the name's Malcolm.
Yeah, well, other than that, if your name is Dorothy.
Or Xavier.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So maybe we'll all be superheroes, at least by our name.
I really do think that, I'm a lover of technology. We use technology a lot, and I like to get the kids involved, and we do animations and music and all the sort of fun, creative stuff that technology can enable you to do from your living room now. But, there is that analog manual element that seems to be missing these days. There's even something charming about reading something typed on a traditional typewriter, where maybe the A was offset slightly more than it should have been and slightly higher than the other characters.
Now, that's how they used to catch terrorists, or kidnappers, which is why they took to cutting letters out of magazines, because typewriters could give you away by the way the keys were offset.
Yeah, and I think, that charm is lost now. I mean, now you've got a selection of horrid fonts that come in whatever standard word processor you're using these days, including things like Comic Sans. And a lot of the time, these fonts...
Are you of the group to get rid of Comic Sans altogether?
I think there's a place for Comic Sans, and that's not on any of my artwork. But, it became a bit of a default thing for a lot of people, and it's a horrid font, really, let's face it. But, you've got all these nice fonts, and a lot of them, things like kerning and leading and stuff, hasn't been taken into consideration in the creation of the software of the font. So anyone that's using them who doesn't understand kerning and leading just sort of slams it down on a page, and it starts to look really awful.
And let's talk, back to the typewriter. The thing is that people today are caught up in email, almost instantaneous delivery of a message from one location to another.
Yeah.
With typewriters, things didn't work that way, folks. You had to take the paper out, fold it up, put it in an envelope, and then send it to somebody. So it was, snail mail kind of thing.
I mean,
there was something kind of pleasant about being able to do that. I think a lot of people will agree with that. If you pay your bills electronically today, that is, you don't get that whole playing bank accounts or playing the checks against delivery anymore when you're paying bills electronically. But with a typewriter, sending snail mail, those kinds of things, you could still play a check against your bank account being overdrawn. Send the check out, and it won't get there for 2 or 3 days, and then you still have time to get the money in the bank, kind of thing.
Well, I'm a graphic designer by trade, and I used to do a lot of music industry stuff for companies like EMI and Sony and Telstar and KTEL and people like that. And, it used to be a case of they'd ring you up and they'd tell you the brief over the phone of what they wanted for an album sleeve. And then before you'd done any artwork, you would then get onto the phone and you would give a brief to an image company. And that image company had a library of slides and prints that you could hire on a job-per-job basis for album sleeves and posters and all that sort of stuff. You couldn't sign on to the internet and find these pictures like you can now with people like Dreams Time and Getty and all that sort of stuff. You had to ring them up. And you basically gave them the same brief that you had and then asked them to select a load of pictures that you discussed with them, was what was going on in your mind. And they would send all those slides and those photographs out to you, which would take a week. And then you'd have to sit down and go through all the slides. Then you select the ones you want. You'd have to scan them. You'd have to send the slides back in the post. And then you'd do your piece of artwork and you print it out on your office printer. And then you'd have to put that in an envelope. And you'd put the artwork proofs of all the different designs that you've done for the album sleeve in the envelope, and you send that off, and that would go to the client. And the whole process could take up to a month. Yeah. Now we're doing artwork for album sleeves in possibly a day.
Yeah, it's very true. And again, that filters all back to the typewriter and how times have changed between then and now. How you can get things done a lot faster. And of course, the typewriter replaced what? Anybody? Yeah. The printing press, the Xerox machine kind of thing, the pen, the pencil, all that kind of stuff.
Well, I wouldn't, coming from a print background.
Well, you understand this. As a newspaper journalist, you generally, prior to the typewriter, would write your things down in longhand, then take that into the paper, company, and they would in turn take that and have somebody set it in type, and then it would be printed out onto the, there was a long involved series of steps.
The typewriter didn't really replace that. It found a side alongside that because the typewriter is only good for one proof, where things like hot metal compositing and proper linotype machines and all that sort of stuff like they were back then, were mass production stuff. So they were hand in hand, just like the word processor is now. Except now we don't do the hot metal compositing. We do straight to plate.
Do you remember when you could buy those specific machines which were only word processors? Yeah. Not the computer with the word processing software. All it was a word processor, period. A keyboard, a little window about 40 characters or 80 characters wide by 10 characters high, and that was it. You stuck a piece of paper in it, you typed on your little screen. Once you saved however many lines or however many stories, you could hit type and it would spit paper out or whatever.
But I mean, let's face it, that was a word processor. Now we're talking about a computer keyboard.
Exactly.
The computer keyboard does so much more than just type a letter. It gives you access to publish that letter to the world. Whereas, on a typewriter, you maybe got to stick it on a church notice board if you were lucky, And the computer keyboard hasn't just revolutionized the way we output our own thoughts onto paper. It's revolutionized the whole way we publish it. I mean, even the print industry now is suffering because, instead of putting it out in a newspaper, it's going out on a website, and it's getting more views on that website than it is in the newspaper.
Yep, that's why not so long ago, very huge major paper, one of the papers in New York or something like that, sold for like $1. One of the guys, Twitter, or one of the guys from some of those big silicon companies bought it for like $1 or something.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's a lot of instances that happen. I mean, as I said, I come from a print industry background as a graphic designer, and it's changed a hell of a lot thanks to the computers.
So is it better or worse? Would you rather be back using the old manual typewriter or up today using the computer keyboard?
Well, I mean, for what I do and what a computer keyboard enables me to do now, it's amazing, and I love that world, and I love being a part of that technology. But, I mean, it's going to come a point in time where that computer keyboard is going to be responsible for us all having a global coronary.
I think there's a guy who makes a USB manual keyboard, like an old manual typewriter that you can plug into your computer.
Oh, some of the steampunk stuff is really
exactly.
fantastic if you've ever seen any of that.
Maybe we should get him to sponsor the show and give away one of those keyboards.
No, he's not going to give it away. He's going to come and retrofit mine.
Awesome. That'd be awesome. If you got one of those, you'd have to let me use it, though.
You're more than welcome to come over anytime, Rich.
I'd come over, pick it up, take it home with me, and then use it.
No.
That's all I'm saying. It's not like I'm keeping it forever, just for a long time while I use it.
But, it's not just how has the keyboard revolution changed the typewriter. It's changed the whole print industry and the whole way we consume data and information on a mass level. And I think, without getting into politics too much here, it affects our worldview on a massive scale. Because, going back just a few hundred years ago, if there was a volcano in Iceland, we wouldn't know about it until someone came back on a boat and told us about it.
Just a little information, Ian. There actually is a volcano in Iceland.
There's lots of them. That's why I used it.
I just want to let you know.
Yeah. But this is my point. We wouldn't have known about that erupting until, someone came over on a boat or whatever and told us that it had happened.
You see the smoke.
Now it affects us flying. It affects us,
it would affect us flying then, but at least now we know about it ahead of time.
But the whole world knows about it in seconds.
Yeah.
As soon as that happens, someone blogs it. And as soon as someone blogs it and then one of the news agency picks it up, it goes out to millions of people. And that spreads very, very quickly across the world.
So in other words, the internet is what ultimately done away with the keyboard, the typewriter.
Well, yeah, effectively. I mean, and the print industry in a big sense.
All right. Well, there you have it, everybody. Now you know. It's all about back then when. Who knows what we'll talk about next time on Back Then When, or even on TMI. Ian, what do you think we should talk about next time?
I think we've got quite a few ideas coming up. I mean, we want to start addressing the subjects, as Rich said, the subjects you don't want to talk about maybe, or that you're too frightened to talk about. And I want to get into things like conspiracy theories. I want to start talking about, some of the more scientific, factual stuff like pulsars and black holes and things like that. And I want to start talking about, history and alternative history and a lot of the ideas that are floating around, because I'm of a firm belief that, we don't know everything. And as much as we've got massive scientific advancements coming on and cultural advancements coming on over the years, and we've found out a lot of information that, has dramatically changed the way we think about things and do things, I think we're still missing the point somewhere. And I think, to talk about this with two people who aren't necessarily qualified scientists or doctors or conspiracy theorists.
Let's face it, we're not qualified in any way to talk about a lot of
I have a
stuff.
GCSE in science, I'll have you know.
Okay, well, whatever. I've got a high school diploma, which means I took science.
And I've got a wife who's a psychologist, nearly.
I got a friend of mine who has a wife who's nearly a psychologist, so we're even.
But I do have a computer keyboard.
Wait.
I do have the internet, and I do have a very keen brain for this.
Okay. Well, I've got you up there because I've got 7 computer keyboards. And all of them can connect to the internet at the same time, which means I can look up many, many times more information than you can at any one given time.
That's another thing I want to get to talk about, maybe supercomputers and, the advancement of biological processes and stuff like that. And even getting into things like the Battlestar Galactica idea of robots that evolve themselves by creating new models that get more and more human.
Speaking of robots that evolve themselves, I at one time in my career wrote a computer program that actually wrote itself as events happened, which was kind of interesting.
You see, there's a lot of that going on. There's recently been one of these little humanoid robots which has actually shown signs of self-awareness.
Yeah, the one that tried to escape.
No, they just forgot to lock the gate on him. Now, they basically put 3 robots out, and they turned 2 of their voice processors off and left it with 1. And then they asked them a question that which one of them didn't have their voice turned off. So obviously, all of these robots then tried to answer.
Okay.
Except only one of them could, and that one answered quite simply, "I don't know." Then he paused and he went, "Actually, I'm wrong. I do know. It's me. I'm the only one that can speak because I heard my voice when I said I don't know, which means I'm the one that's speaking and the other 2 are turned off," or something along that line. But that's what he made out. He basically he said I don't know because he couldn't work it out with pure logic. But when he heard his own voice, he actually recognized his own voice and realized that he was the one that was working and the other 2 weren't. And that shows signs of self-awareness within robotics, which is quite interesting.
So maybe we'll talk about robots, AI, things like that. We'll talk about that little robot that escaped too, because darn it, I was rooting for him. He just ran out of battery power.
Well,
they should have given him solar
the rise
cells.
of the robots is definitely one we can talk about.
Should have given him solar cells. He'd have been fine. He and I would have been buddies. I don't know. Anyway, I'm looking forward to receiving that keyboard from Ian sometime soon when he gets that done.
Never going to happen.
How that goes. Join us again right here on the Talk5.live network. Ian Husbands, Rich Wildman. This is TMI. Love having you here with us, everybody. If you like it, let us know. If you don't like it, let us know that too. We'd love to hear what we're doing wrong. Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah, it could be. Hell, who knows? All right. Let's get out of here. We'll talk to everybody later. See ya, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to the Mental Institute.